Okay, so hello everybody. Are we live now? Hang on. I believe we're now live. So, welcome everybody. It's another Friday in. Hang on, everybody. I can hear myself now. That's not good. There we go. Apologies. Let's try and start that again. So, hello everybody, and welcome to another Friday in the TEFL Development Hub. And we've got another new topic coming in today. So, we have done business English before, but we're going to have a look at a particular niche of business English as we go through the chat. So, we've got Meg Nicholls joining us. Hi, Meg. Thanks for coming along.
Hi, it's so nice to meet you and be here. Thanks for having me.
Fantastic. So, first of all, tell us a little bit about yourself. Like, how did you start out in ELT to begin with?
Yeah, I feel like lots of people, we kind of end up here along the way and we look back 10 years later and we're like, how did that happen? It was not always the plan, but I'm trying to be more flexible and see where life takes me. So about 10 years ago, I did my TEFL qualification when I was an au pair in Germany. And then I've been teaching on and off ever since, pretty much for anything and everything. So I've done the kids, I've done in the classroom, online, bankers, individual classes, school classes. And yeah, I loved it, kind of caught the bug and wanted to continue doing it. So yeah, more recently I set up my business and have developed into the business English niche.
Fantastic. I think your story is like so many other people's that when you first start out, you're going in all sorts of different directions. So yeah, so now how did you move into business English?
Yeah, it's a good question. So during the pandemic, I kind of found myself stuck in Frankfurt. Like many people, they couldn't travel to where they wanted to. And I don't know if you know, but Frankfurt is a very big financial city. So I was teaching bankers mainly and people that worked in finance, and very quickly realized that they needed the specialist language and the very targeted lessons rather than the general, let's go on holiday or let's pack a suitcase kind of lesson. And yeah, I really enjoyed it. My background is in languages and business at university. So yeah, kind of a happy coincidence. It ticked a lot of boxes. I'd already got the background and the education, and then combined it with my love of languages. Yeah, the rest is history.
So you mentioned that kind of having the first steps into business English being financially focused. Was that
Mhm.
quite daunting to suddenly be faced with lots of new terminology and things?
Yeah, absolutely. I was probably one of the youngest teachers that they'd had in the language school. Joined with the fact that it was the pandemic and it was kind of there wasn't the option to be picky or fussy about jobs, especially in another country. So it was kind of, sink or swim situation. I remember doing lots of research and lots of background reading and probably spent 3 hours preparing a 1 hour lesson, as we all do when we are new. But yeah, the more you do it, the easier it gets. And one thing I think about business English is it sounds really boring, but actually, a lot of it is not just the finance and just the dry kind of numbers and the textbooks. So that's the side that I find interesting, kind of humanizing the business side.
Yeah, definitely. And as well, just when you do start working in business English, we'll talk a little bit more about your niche in a minute, but when you are kind of doing general business English or you're working with lots of different people, you learn so much about their industries as well.
Yeah, I say this all the time that it's definitely a two-way situation. I learn so much from my clients, and I feel so grateful that I get almost an insight into their world. As whilst I'm preparing for the lessons, I'm learning about their product, their industries, and the areas that they are specialists in, which obviously I have no idea about. I'm able to help with the English side, but all the technical terms that they know about, they teach me, and I learn a lot from them, which I really enjoy.
Fantastic. Yeah, that's definitely something that I find quite scary now when I'm working with business English students is they say a word which is English, but I have no idea whether they're using it correctly or so quite often I'm on Google at the same time checking things out.
But do you
Fantastic.
not think that's great? Like for me, it's like it shows that we're human and that just because we're native English speakers in lots of cases, or we're trained in English, doesn't mean that we are walking dictionaries. And I say that to my students all the time. Look, that word sounds great. Let me just check it, or let's check it together. And I think that shows a really nice, softer side to it, you know.
Yeah, definitely. Yep, yep. And like you say, they can teach us so much as well.
Yeah.
Talking about business English, your niche, well, your tagline on LinkedIn is Business English Coach for German speaking marketeers or marketers. So, well, how did you end up in that niche?
Bit of a mouthful, isn't it, Teresa? I can't find a simpler way to express it, but yeah, as I said, it comes from lots of different threads in my life, which I'm trying to bring together to really be a specialist in my field and really offer something different to my clients. You can go online, all the apps, and you can see a lot of general English. And I think that's an amazing tool and a place to start. I just find that lots of my clients, once they have a certain level, you know, the B2, the C1, they're just looking for a little bit more. And it's not better, it's just different, you know. So I'm fluent in German. I used to live in Germany. And yeah, I think it's my favorite language that I speak out of all of them. And definitely the one I'm most confident in. So I think that lots of my clients appreciate that I can speak their language if they need it. I always encourage to speak in the target language, but if necessary, they can fall back on that and say a random idiom or a 26 letter word in German, as is common. And then, whilst I was living in Germany, I was also working in marketing. So I think my experience in that field then kind of helps because I was in the office, I was seeing people trying to live in that environment and work in that area. And I
Mhm.
think understanding the challenges that they face is really vital because we can have as much sympathy in the world, but if the actual understanding the experience makes it a bit more hands-on.
Nice. So, I mean, obviously, lots of advantages of the niche. Have you ever come across any disadvantages of promoting or selling yourself that way?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, if I look at all my clients and all my students that I've had, probably only half of them are from my niche specifically. And that's okay. It's not for everybody. And I kind of explain the niche situation as if you go to a all-you-can-eat buffet with cuisine from all around the world. Yeah, you will get something. But if you're really looking for that pizza or the speciality from a country, it's best to go to that place specifically. And we use specialists in so many areas of our lives that I always say, why is it any different for languages? But yeah, you can't appeal to everybody all of the time. And I do get some clients that want something that I am not best equipped to offer. And I think I'm learning more as I'm part of the TEFL community that there are definitely other teachers with more skills and qualifications that can offer that in a different way. And maybe vice versa. They might get somebody that really needs marketing or is a German speaker that, you know, can then feed that way.
Mhm.
Um, yeah.
Awesome. And I mean, how do you find clients?
Um, so yeah, I'm new to looking for them on my own. I think like many of us, we've been in language schools where the clients are sourced and we don't have to do the marketing. And it's definitely a whole new challenge. I don't have the perfect answer right now. LinkedIn is a big tool that I'm using because it's already a professional network. So you can see that somebody's a marketer or not. You can see their location, where they're based, and you can even filter their profiles for the languages that they speak, which is a really great tool. I also have my Instagram, and really putting myself out there, doing the reels, not my comfort zone at all, but I'm learning a lot in the process. And then I have my website as well. So I enjoy writing the blog posts and doing that outreach more that way.
Fantastic. Are your blog posts focused more towards clients or towards teachers with ideas for the classroom?
Mainly towards clients who might be thinking about it, but I've done a couple of blog posts also about how to engage adults. I think there's the kind of misconception that, you know, like I said before, it can't be fun and only kids' lessons can have games, and I really want to change that. So yeah, there's something for everybody there, I hope.
Fantastic. And I mean, so let's chat a little bit now about materials, because obviously we were going for bold, not boring.
Yeah.
How do you feel that your approach to preparing your lessons and sourcing materials or making materials, how's that developed over time?
Um, I would almost say that I've ditched the textbooks. So I started off, and I think it's the way the world has evolved as well, not just personal to me. But we'd have the textbooks and even the CDs that you'd play. And now, like, if I did that in one of my classes, the students would just laugh at me. So as technology has evolved, I think we're using more AI and we're using the internet, which is an amazing resource that I feel so grateful for. And people in your group and all the community that you're building. I see so many ideas being shared, and I just think that's amazing because we don't have to reinvent the wheel. And so many times we can share and learn and inspire from each other. So I think that's a great tool. Um, yeah, and also like the textbooks, sometimes they're useful, but a lot of it's not real. So I want to move away from, like the scripted or the invented situations and really use the real life material. So we lo watch a lot of the news or videos and things that are actually happening right now that will affect their business or will affect their industry. And it's definitely more tangible for them because they're seeing it in their own language or they're seeing it in the world around them.
Mhm. Yeah, I think that's absolutely true. The idea of using news, I've been doing that a lot recently, and n not only just kind of general news, but looking into those more specific field newsletters that
Mhm.
you might get that has, I mean, even just like the Financial Times is obviously more niche than the BBC.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's great that there are so many resources that we have at our fingertips. Mhm.
Yeah, I feel so grateful. It's almost overwhelming how much choice there is and how much I wake up every morning and I think, oh, I could do 10 different things. It's almost like, how can I possibly pick just one? Because there's so much happening. And yeah, and I also think it's important to be student led. So instead of me dictating, okay, this is what we're doing today, I'll ask the student to bring in a article or a video that's interesting for them, or ask them what they want to learn about, or what they have doubts about. That's something that I think is underused as teachers is we assume that if they can answer our question on the past perfect tense, then they understand it. But maybe they have doubts about something else or something that we haven't like fact checked.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. So kind of more moving into sort of a dog me approach
Hmm.
of just opening up the conversation and seeing which direction it goes in. Lovely. Very good. And you mentioned AI as well there. So how have you been using that to develop materials?
Yeah, I want to avoid the general chat GPT, standardized articles and things like that. But I think for generating vocabulary lists, it's really helpful for specific areas. And I love the way that you can target it for the level. So most of my learners are probably C1, B2, but that doesn't limit it just to that area. I might have an A2 learner that is learning for their job as well. And the traditional business English materials might be too advanced. So we're just going to simplify a little bit, but still give them a chance to learn. So I think tools like this are really helpful.
Yeah. And you mentioned there kind of using it for vocabulary lists. I came across, oh, I'll have to find it again now because it was really good. Somebody had posted an AI vocabulary generator that they developed.
Yeah.
And it was
I think that's
great.
Sam on
Yeah, oh
LinkedIn.
yeah,
Yeah.
Sam. Yeah, yeah. And really useful just to have that and kind of go, I need 10 pieces of vocabulary about either a news article or a particular field is
Yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Excellent. So what are your kind of top tips for developing materials for business English learners?
I really like the flipped classroom. So I think getting them to do as much listening, or reading or preparing material before the class is a really helpful tool. it's not a complete waste of time, reading together or watching a video together, but I feel like it's not the best use of my time to sit and watch a 10-minute video with them when they can do that on their own. So I like sending them materials in advance or afterwards for the homework. And I always try and encourage that as much as you do with me, you also do on your own in the independent learning. But yeah, my materials are very flexible. Sometimes I plan them in advance and go into the classroom thinking, okay, this is what we're going to talk about today. I've got the grammar points, I've got the discussion questions, I'm good to go. And then they say, actually, Meg, I have a presentation next week. This is going to take priority. Please, can we look at this instead? And I'm like, yeah, absolutely. And I love being able to offer that to my students, that individualized, tailored lesson, because
Mhm.
that's their need right now. They don't need to talk about the latest product in their industry or whatever. They want to practice their presentation. So I'm very aware that sometimes we have to put our plans as teachers to the side, and I'm getting better at that. Sometimes the element of control is like, okay, the surprise.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah.
Yeah, I think it's also for me personally the feeling of I would hate to go into a lesson thinking that I wasn't ready or that I hadn't prepared something.
Mhm.
So yeah, there's always that kind of it's part of my job to go in with a plan of something at least.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's difficult sometimes to get ourselves out of that habit, I think, so that we allow for that freedom of it can go this way or that way or that way.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
I think, I'm sorry, go
No, no, go ahead.
on. I think asking them what they need has been a really valuable tool. And like you said, it's something we learn from them. Because even if they're on a business English course or they've got a 10-week of business English, whatever it might be, it's how the language will affect their business. So a really interesting example, the other week, one of my clients, I've known her for about a year, and she said, I've got some exciting news. And I was like, okay, what's it going to be? Promotion? I don't know. She says, I'm pregnant. And I'm like, congratulations, that's so exciting. And she goes, so I need your help. And I kind of take a second, I'm like, how can I possibly help? And she goes, I don't know how to talk about maternity leave with my employer. And it's like something just kind of sparked in my brain because I've never seen a textbook talk about maternity leave or talk about how that's going to work or any of the logistics of that. But it's a totally valid point of how this huge life event is going to affect her business and her job and her career. And I think if I hadn't have asked, what do you need right now? Or how can I help? We would never have learned all the vocabulary to be able to have that discussion.
Mhm.
So yeah, that was definitely a valuable teaching moment for me.
Yeah. Yeah, I think a lot of it comes from building the relationships with our learners as well,
Yeah.
for them to feel comfortable to say, I don't want to do that, I need this, or for us to kind of just go, what do you want to do and not make it sound like we're completely unprepared. Yep. Um, I was going to ask kind of about any challenges. Obviously you mentioned enjoying the flipped classroom approach,
Mm.
and a lot of our adult learners are very busy and sometimes things don't get done. Is that a typical challenge, and are there any others?
Yeah, absolutely. The amount of messages I get saying, "Oh, my kid was sick from school today. I had to stay home. I didn't get a chance to do the homework," or yeah, I had to stay late for a meeting or whatever. Sometimes there's no even reason, just life gets in the way. And um, I think having the empathy to understand that that's a totally human approach. And then we do the task together, or we look at a different task, or we have to be flexible in what they need. And some of my clients are very upfront with me and they say, please don't give me any homework. Like, I'm already investing an hour a week with you. Like, this is golden, precious time. And I totally get that. The flip classroom's not going to work there. But yeah, having that open channel of communication, I'm asking them what they want. They're not kids. And if we set them a homework for a vocabulary test, that might be really like unempowering for them, or it might not be helpful. They might want to practice their writing or whatever. So just asking them what they need.
Mhm.
And I think the other challenge that I've had with adult learners and their busy lives is the distractions. All of my classes are online, which means I'm a little screen in their very big world. And so I've had lessons where I've been on the commute, and somebody's missed their bus stop, and then obviously they're not going to answer my questions on grammar. or they've got the kids in the background, or the husband gets home from work. And it's being understanding of that and being aware that, you know, it's not life or death to learn the English in that moment and understanding they have other things going on.
And I think as well, what you saying there about when they're on their commute, just kind of appreciating that the way that we deliver classes might not be the way that we've moved away from the traditional way of receiving classes as well. Yeah, I had my student this evening, he left the office late, so we were doing it on his commute. He was driving, and I was like, would you like to stop and reschedule? He's like, no, it's fine. And I'm assuming, he quite often has meetings, or he'll quite often be on calls when
Mm.
he's driving. Whereas for me, that's completely, I never talk on the phone whilst I'm driving. So the fact that he was quite comfortable to just have our conversational English class was, yeah, yeah. I need to open my
Refreshing.
mind.
Yeah, absolutely. I have students sending me voice notes just to practice their pronunciation. I feel like 5, 10 years ago that would never have happened. And also, this is another reason you asked me about preparing materials. If we come in with a big shiny PowerPoint and we say, okay, this is what I've prepared, and then they're actually on their phone screen and they can't even see it, or they're on hands-free and they're driving, it's like that was a waste of everybody's time. So asking them is then another valuable way.
So do you tend to steer clear of these kind of structured lesson materials?
I have both. So I have some that are doing like a 10-hour program, and then there's the 10 kind of pieces of material, and it's more like a modular approach. They know what they're going to get in advance, they know what's coming up. Whereas I have some where it's just conversation classes, and I've had them for years, and I feel like one of their family, and we just talk about everything going in their lives. So yeah, a bit of both.
Mhm. And I mean, I know quite a lot of people, particularly who are doing business English, but just people who are offering their own classes anyway. You've mentioned kind of having courses and then kind of classes. So do you sell a bulk, like a package of kind of a 10 hour set?
Yeah, traditionally, the one-to-one classes, I have the 10 hours. So I have the business English 10 hours, I have the grammar course where I try and cover all of the English grammar in 10 hours. Can you imagine that challenge? And then I have the conversation, which is generally the one that's more flexible. So they might start off with 10 hours and then we do another 10 hours or another five, um, because there's obviously more than 10 conversation topics. So yeah, and then the specific things of what they need. So I had one client that started off in business English, for example, and then started looking for a job. So we did 3 weeks kind of bonus package, I guess, if you want to describe it like that, where it was just looking at interviews and CVs, and that really tailored approach of what she needed at that time.
Yes, awesome. Cool. Well, I mean, it sounds like you've kind of got a really flexible work life, and it feels like it's working for you at the moment. So that's awesome.
Yeah, I love it. It brings me a lot of joy and brings lots of things together that I love. I love the flexibility and being able to call you like this and connect with people all over the world. I think that's a really great tool. And there are lots of disadvantages of it, but I think if we use it in a positive way, it's helpful for everybody.
Fantastic. And just to finish off, what would be your kind of top tips if people are thinking of getting into business English? What would you suggest?
For teaching or for learning?
For teachers, yeah.
Just prepare yourself as much as possible, but also be open-minded. Business covers such a vast area of things. So I have an accountant and I have a sales manager. They're both theoretically doing the same course, right? But the vocabulary and the topics that they want to talk about are completely different. So having that open-mindedness and the flexibility, but also asking them in advance, I think helps you prepare. I think it's interesting because the way that they set their goals or the needs that they have is often very different between the perceived ones and the real ones. So the perceived need is that they need to be fluent. The real need is that they just want more confidence when speaking. So being able to prepare for that is helpful.
Fantastic. Well, Thanks very much, Meg. I know that you're over in Mexico, so you've still got an afternoon of classes to get back to.
Yeah.
But thanks so much for taking the time to come and chat to us today. It's been
Yeah,
really
it's been great.
interesting.
Thank you so much.
And I'll be back again in another couple of weeks with another live session in the hub. So keep